They'll give Todd the justice he deserves back in London.
You realize he'd never see trial. He'd much sooner hang than be in any sort of court.
Then perhaps that is the justice that is needed. Need I remind you what this man has done, what he is capable of? There are nearly 24 graves in London with his signature. If given the chance, he could have killed any single one of us on board.
There ain't nothing logical about this. We're sitting here talking about sending a man to the gallows.
If you have an issue with how we handle the situation, you are more than free to stand up for him once the officials arrive. It's no saying you should check who you align yourself with, Hyde.
It's just bad fortune, talking such dark business. Bad fortune is all.
Well, I know I haven't made it this far in my life to have my throat slit on a bloody tram.
Then it's decided. We keep him restrained until they arrive, then turn him in.
And the warrant money, how do we split that?
There it is. I don't care, just so long as the lot of you are out of my sight once we start moving again.
We'll get the ropes and whatever we can find to make ourselves a restraint.
Find yourself some blankets and coats in doing so. It's going to be a cold night tonight.
If one were to join the tale now, one would see quite an interesting scene indeed. Trapped in a luggage car on a frozen railroad, there was a group of people who, in their own terrible ways, were as odd as the air was cold. In the tableau resided several men, one woman, and a hunched figure who the rest weren't truly convinced was human. In the band of miscreants was the tall and awkward Dr. Frankenstein, groaning as he rubbed his arthritic knee. Then one Eric and Dorian Gray, the shrouded figure and beautiful woman, arguing as to whether Dorian should in fact test to see if her 12th bottle of wine would be as good as the 11th. This would have been an issue, if not for the fact that Miss Gray could not die. Where in most cases this would be a pleasant surprise, Sweeney Todd found this to be quite the nuisance after trying to kill her only a moment before. The infamous barber would have to put the theory to the test again, had it not been for the fact that the remaining passengers had tied him to a barrel. The Professor Van Helsing sat off to the side, keeping watch on the prisoner, but more so on the pitch darkness outside of his window. Lost in thought, Van Helsing never heard the horrible singing of not only the brutish Edward Hyde, but also the slightly higher pitch of someone who could be recognized as Dr. Jekyll. Unfortunately for the remainder of the passengers, they did not share in Van Helsing's obliviousness, and were forced to listen to the pitter-patter duet that accompanied their Gothic nightmare on a Russian tram.
I was born at a Dublin street where the royal drums did beat, and those loving English feet, they trembled all over us. Knees up, Mother Brown, knees up, Mother Brown, under the table you must go, E-I-E-I-E-I-O. And each and every night, when me father came home tight, he'd invite the neighbours outside with this chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man.
Good God, choose a bloody song.
Oh, don't sing it all. Silence may be your strong suit.
Hey, I'm bored. When I'm bored, me mind wanders. When me mind wanders, I get songs stuck in my head. If I catch you binning, I'll sew your legs right off. Knees up, Mother Brown, knees up, Mother Brown.
Could you restrain yourself to one song stuck in your head?
You say it like it's so fucking easy. Knees up, Mother Brown, knees up, Mother Brown. Under the table you must go, E-I-E-I-E-I-O. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell them how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lands of Kilishandra.
Did you even serve in the IRA?
No, but the tune is catchy. Catchy as the bloody plague it is. If I catch you binning, I'll sew your legs right off. Knees up, Mother Brown, knees up, Mother Brown.
I feel like I'm going crazy.
Oh, you and me both.
Here, have a few of these, see if it stops the music.
Dorian Gray offered Professor Hyde a glass of wine, who took it and swigs the whole thing down in one gulp.
Sorry, brain's a little frantic right now. Children, why the long faces? If you're cold, get your voices moving. Warms you right up.
Hyde, enough of your games.
You're right, I really should shut up now. Knees up, Mother Brown! Knees up, Mother Brown! Under the table you must go!
Professor Hyde, who sounded quite like Dr. Jekyll at this point, happily swayed his way over to Professor Van Helsing, who was staring out the window. The doctor put his arm around the professor's neck, attempting to get him to join in on the festivities, but Van Helsing shoves him off with some force.
Don't touch me! My God, I'm so sorry. I really didn't.
Don't come any closer. I've had it with you in the hours of your narcissistic ramblings.
Leave the man alone, Professor. He clearly doesn't want to sing.
And you, with your endless drunken commentary, and all of you, just shut up and don't say a word.
Van Helsing, just try to calm down.
Calm down! You want me to calm down? How? How exactly do you want me to be calm, Frankenstein?
I think we're all just a wee bit tired right now.
Oh, save it. You all can't just sit here and think this is all okay.
Dr. Frankenstein and Professor Hyde went to try and ease Professor Van Helsing's nerves.
Sit down, Professor. You're getting yourself worked up.
Why would you think that? Could it be that every single bastard on this train is a sociopathic, lying, feral thing? I was supposed to be in Amsterdam. I was supposed to be on a pleasant excavation, but instead I am trapped in a box with a group of bloody monsters.
Perhaps you should listen to what you say before you start pointing fingers.
I've spent the last hour staring out of that window. An entire hour spent gazing at the falling snow in the dark, and you know what I found? No moon. There is no bloody moon out tonight. Every night before tonight had a fat, whopping moon that kept you up until midnight, but not tonight. There is no light or solace in this scheme. We are a godless place in the world. Godless for you men, for you despicable, hateful men who hide your secrets in the dark and snow, waiting for someone like me to come along, waiting for some foolish man to become your next victim.
What's the matter with you?
Pay no mind to him, Victor.
Mrs. Gray makes her way over to the group, swaying from her intoxication and a bottle in hand.
Van Helsing is just a man, like so many others. And for the first time in his mundane life, he's found out that the monsters he feared as a child are very much real. All of it. And like all men, he's scared.
You're being a bit dramatic, aren't you?
We've all had this realization, just as he did. We've all had these moonless nights in the snow. Come now, are you to say you've never feared the horrors of the world?
Well, not something you really outgrow, is it?
Fear? No. You never outgrow fear. But you can understand what you fear. You can speak to it. What is it you fear, Van Helsing?
That I'm locked in a room with a bunch of monsters?
That's all? Well, that's easily
You
fixed.
get a separate tram?
You fear us because you think we are nothing more than the stories we've told. You think I'm just a pungent immortal, Eric is the decrepit ghost of a composer, Todd is a ruthless killer, and Hyde is... whatever he is. You need to see the most important thing of all.
That being...
The humanity. Humanity is what separates every man from beast. That's what turns monsters into you, and vice versa. That's what we need to do for you, Professor. You just need to see behind the proverbial curtain of our souls.
Is that necessary?
You have a better idea for what to do for the next several hours until the officials come?
And you really want Hyde to start singing again?
I agree, it was driving me batty.
Nothing soul-bearing, of course. We're just asking for that little twinge of human vulnerability that separates you from being that terrible monster that Van Helsing dreamt up.
Well, it seems you have all this thought out, so I'll leave you to it.
Dr. Frankenstein left the group to their devices. Mrs. Gray scampered on the top of the pile of trunks and announced to the strangers,
Well, given how I'm the natural leader of the group, I'll go first. You all know me as the alluring, beautiful goddess who stands before you. Hush! But, as Van Helsing will soon learn, I wasn't always so vigilantly passionate about my condition. There was a time, I would say around my 174th birthday, where I began to have doubts. There were strong feelings of something, like you had finished a book, the rush of meeting the conclusion and the satisfaction of setting it down, knowing it is done. But instead of holding the last page in my hand, I held another chapter, and then another, and then another. I realized that although my story was completed, my book would never end. It felt as if I had experienced all there was to experience. I felt lost.
Dorian Gray's expression changed from inflated to introspective. The purple in her eyes became nebulous and ever-changing.
And in that moment of weakness, my single moment of humanity, I burned the painting. That single beautiful painting that had cursed me so. Me, in my infantile fantasy, had hoped that the destruction of the thing would be the same for its effects. I had thought the embers would have carried away this pain and finally allowed me to embrace the rain. But as I soon found out, the devil's work stays beyond any work of mortal destruction. though, I was still a beautiful beast. Once I cast myself from a spire and drowned in a loch. I knew that my suffering would never end. I am eternally graced to never hear the patter of rain on my window for the rest of eternity. There is but one thing that can strike me down.
What would that be?
Why? God. God himself can strike me down. But he doesn't appear to be intervening anytime soon.
She was a broken thing of a girl when I met her, merely wandering the world for a distraction, as was I suppose. We were two suffering souls looking for a confidant in our misery.
I remember it as if it were yesterday. I had chosen for some reason to study the beautiful architecture of every nation. Something to fill the time, I suppose. So, without saying, I found myself in Notre Dame. The cathedrals, large and important, almost insinuating they were built by the same men who shaped the mountains and dug rivers. I was in awe in every sense. Then, in the steeple of one of the oldest towers, in the oldest room, was this old, hunched-back husk. A small pile of snow had collected on him, for he was too weak to move.
She took pity on me. I've been feared, reviled, disgusted, but never pitied. It needs no mention that I do not share the like image of man or any creature of God's earth. I share the face of a devil. Perhaps that is why she took pity upon me, for she recognized me as a friend, and I did not turn away when I saw her condition, for I knew how it stung to be out of place.
I took you in, fed you, made you strong and spoiled.
I have not known such nicety since my stay in France. Instead of scrounging for food or nourishment, I lived for myself. I lived for the gentler things in the world. So out of the cold and the hatred of others, I began to compose once more.
And compose he did. The halls of my manor would be filled with sheets of music, tumbling out of his mind faster than he could write.
I was whole once more.
He was energetic, lively, a purpose to his life.
I almost felt as if I was still at the opera, listening to the voices from my booth, admiring the performers.
So, seeing his gift, we struck a tour, and began our trek through Russia as the quintessential representatives of the arts. You see, Van Helsing, we were artists. We are loners, artisans, lovers of the very thing you study so dear. We are the reason humanity matters.
She's still a bitch.
So close to having a genuine moment. We were so close. Why do you always do this?
Fuck you.
Now, you know our humanity. Who's next? Let's keep this game going.
I appreciate it, and it was a lovely story, truly, but I think it's best if we stop for the night.
How about Stabby McStabby? I'm sure we would love to hear what makes you so lovable, Mr. Sweeney Todd.
Fuck off.
Oh, not in the friendly mood.
Untie me and we'll just see how friendly I can be.
And the limey firecracker strikes again.
Leave him alone. We don't need to hear his sensibilities. And why is that, Victor? Because I have no faith in men like you.
Who, barbers?
Brits!
In the ruthless. Those wicked few who have no value for life. Those such as yourself, who see the world as nothing but yours and yours alone. Never mind the misery you lay in your wake.
Oh, don't be so dramatic.
You literally just stabbed Dorian.
Well, we can all agree that was a bit different.
You take pleasure in the suffering of others, Sweeney. That is why you have no humanity. Because you cannot fathom to be anything more than the villain you are.
The villain you must know me to be, is that it?
That meaning.
Why search for the truth when you can read it on the front page for 2 shillings a pop?
You cannot insinuate you're innocent.
And you cannot insinuate that a penny bloody dreadful is a modicum of honesty.
Yeah, we don't need a half-witted explanation from the likes of you.
Why, you're right, Victor. Who would want to listen to a sorry tale about a bugger who slices up people?
That's enough from you.
No, no, no. Please, Victor Frankenstein, tell me how the truth is nothing when it comes to a good story.
I am warning you.
You read the tale, all of you. But you, Victor, You have got to be the end-all, say-all when it comes to bloody morality, aren't you?
Hey, that's enough.
Then why stop there, Doctor?
Told that's quite enough. But perhaps we should intervene.
Oh, hush it. It's getting interesting.
Go on, Butcher. Since you want to act like the bloody judge, jury, and goddamn executioner, just slice my throat and be done with it. Rid the world of my nefarious villainy.
Stop it, Todd.
My name is Sweeney Todd. I am the demon barber of Fleet Street and the London cannibal. I killed hundreds of thousands of men with my bare hands. I am evil incarnate, and the devil pissed himself in hell when I was born. That is what you believed me to be, is it not?
What is the matter with you?
You write off Sweeney Todd as the scoundrel of times when little buggers like you can't tell the truth if it snogged your mother.
So what? The bodies you served just showed up one day?
And that poor woman you held prisoner, forcing her to do all these horrible things.
And you fucking believed her. You tell it again and again until I'm the worst criminal that's ever stepped foot in London town. And it was all because of her, Maggie Lovett, and her perilous tale of surviving the demon barber. Had I seen it just a moment sooner, I'd tell myself, if she never moved downstairs all those years ago, and I had just stayed in my father's barber shop, had I not been a plain-hearted schoolboy and blushed at her red hair and gapped teeth, had I said no just once to her first date, to a ring, to owning the pie shop, if food weren't scarce and money even scarcer, if I got a real job and stopped shaving bureaucrats as they waved their blasted wallets, had I not listened to Maggie when she told me a way to solve our meat problem, had I not been in love, had I never been in love, I could have seen what she was.
You mean she?
Not with the blade, no. She'd never touched them alive. I spared her of that. But she handled the cleaver and mincer and spices and crust. She handled that as I cleaned the blood. Even the sleepless nights were worth it just to have her close. But when her enterprise took a turn and detectives busted down our shop, she pointed a finger at me, and it was over. I wasn't her husband no more. I wasn't Sweeney Todd, the closest shave in London. I was the demon barber.
And how did you escape?
I didn't. 12 years I served in Australia, and what was left of that thing I mistook for love turned sour. Gave me an itch that I couldn't scratch. For 12 years I itched. So I stowed away on a shipping vessel, but it didn't help. So I went to London and I saw my shop again, and still the itch. So I walked in and saw her, red hair and gapped teeth, counting more money than I've ever seen. After all the people wanted was a good story, so I decided to make good on my part. I locked the door, grabbed her pretty throat, and finally scratched my bloody itch. Then I took a neat little page from Maggie's book and got rid of the body. Now, I'm no expert with pie crusts, but that was the best meat pie I've ever had.
How could you do that?
Well, when the world says you're a monster, what's the shame in being one?
So you forfeit all that you were. All that you could be just because you lost your love.
Tread carefully, Doctor.
Because your heart broke, you gave up and became a monster.
Who are you calling a monster, Frankenstein?
Why don't we calm down for a moment?
No! How dare you stand there calling me a monster, as if you have no sins of your own?
I'm tired of indulging this insanity. I won't speak to creatures like you.
No, you ended that in Geneva, didn't you? Or do the creatures still follow you, Victor?
Oh, what are you going on about?
Let's not pretend I'm the only celebrity on board here. Let's all give a warm welcome to Dr. Victor Frankenstein, the true mad doctor.
That's enough from you.
What do you mean by mad doctor?
Don't listen to him.
Can you not all remember? About 8 years ago, the Geneva corpse trials. You think my murders were sensationalism? Try his massacres.
That's how I knew your name. You were on trial.
On trial. You make it sound like I was a maniac, which would be a lot coming from you.
Is our very own Victor a monster? Just like us.
You're acting like a child.
And you like a saint. After all you did, how could you mention justice?
He killed somebody.
Not quite. Grave robbing.
Well, that's not really...
419 accounts of grave robbing.
Christ. Do you remember the actual numbers?
The story caught my eye, because I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out why they didn't convict you. Maggie got me by pointing her fat finger, but here you are. Then I found out none of it stuck because they couldn't find anything. No remains, no parts, not so much as a bone.
So you attacked me for the sake of a mistrial?
Let him speak.
Trial was dropped, but the rumors had just begun. People thought you sold them off, black market type stuff. Or that you ate them like an animal. But there was a consensus among the people in the streets and the pubs. Dr. Victor Frankenstein took those bodies and chopped them up. He sliced them and stitched them all together into something else. Something new. Something inhuman.
An experiment.
An abomination.
Oh, so that's what we're trusting now. Pub tales.
That and the several accounts of something sulking around the city. Something tall and lumbering, groaning and grotesque.
Enough of the campfire stories.
Something that was seen around the time of your wife's death. People sighted a bluish creature climb in the window of your cottage, followed by a woman's scream. It was the same creature people saw near the river when your nephew died. And your maid, and your father, your mother, your friends and family.
Stop it.
Oh dear heavens, is it true?
Reports said the maid killed the family, and then herself.
You don't need to do this.
But how could that spindly girl crush a boy's chest? Not a few bones, but completely crushed. Couldn't be done unless it was enacted by something much bigger.
Enough.
Something inhuman.
Butcher.
Monster!
Stop! I know what happened in those days. You do not need to remind me. Your cruelty serves no one but you think you are somehow better than me because I did those things, because I made a mistake in my youth and I am like you.
Then you admit it. If you are as pure as the snow outside, an angel among men, tell them the truth.
I did it. I made that creature. Alright, is that what you wanted to hear?
You created life.
I would never consider that thing alive.
But he...
Not he. It. You call that thing an it because it does not represent anything similar to that of a man. From the day that thing was created, not a day goes by where I don't regret that thing ever existing. Perhaps because it hated me or for the sheer force of God, it was destined to lay ruin to my life. I wish I could have known then what I do now. I wish I could have seen the broken wreckage that is this world and know that it is inhospitable to any sort of compassion or love. Nature is and will always be a cruel and ironic thing. What was supposed to be my son, my creation, destroyed my life. I close my eyes and I see his scars, his skin, his hands wrapped around my cousin's chest and my wife's throat. I pray for the day the cold finally takes it and leaves me to be nothing more than a lonely doctor. I wanted to change things, to help people and in some way satisfy my ego, but I know now I will forever be Victor Frankenstein, the mad doctor who made a monster with his bare hands. These hands that shake with every stitch. No, I was never convicted, but I suffer a fate worse than hell every day I live in this world. Forced to feel the scars of what was.
Like your leg.
What?
Your limp. Was it from the creature?
I got into an altercation.
An altercation? With it?
He tried to kill me, but I fought him off.
How fortunate.
Yes, fortunate. His limp is a reminder that I will always have him by my side, a part of me. He will always be a part of my pain. And that is how we differ, Todd. You embrace your fate. Well, I regret mine for every moment I can. That, Sweeney Todd, is humanity.
Victor, I didn't know.
Few men do. Even fewer know the regret.
Regret doesn't make you human. Accountability does. You think that creature happened to you and not you to it. You will forever suffer until the day you realize you chose this life.
It was an accident. An accident I will endure to the end of my days.
No. You're right. You both are. Humanity is the acceptance of one's nature and the desire to rectify. It's the want for balance by any means. I have not been a good man. A long while ago, I did quite a few things I've grown to regret. While I
can account it to my nature, or to the freedom I had inherited. I cannot blame it on anyone but myself. Myself and that damned elixir.
Elixir? You're an addict.
Addict? No. Yes. I was an addict. I had this vice, you see, and every time I took it, I felt like a new man. I was free and strong and capable of anything. But somewhere along the way I learned that being free doesn't mean that everyone should be. We are all not meant for this world, as bright and loud as it may be. I've hurt someone close to me. For too long, my freedom has taken his, and I must rectify it.
All strangers leaned forward as Professor Hyde pulled a vial filled with a mysterious green liquid out of his jacket pocket.
This is my rectification.
Good God, you're going to relapse.
What? No, this is 4 years of work in me hand. This is a version of that drug from so long ago. That drug left scars, pains that still surface and make themselves apparent every day. This one, however, will stop it. This will stop the pain, stop the hurt, and put away that misery that was started so long ago. It took a long time to perfect it, but I finally got it. This is it. The end of the line.
Then why don't you take it now? End the hurt.
Fear, I suppose. And nostalgia. When I end the hurt, I want to be alone. At home. I want to be in Edinburgh, in the place with green hills and smoke-coloured bricks. When I take this medicine, the pain will be gone forever. But I want the pain to go away to home. That is all I ask.
Well, that was a bloody drag. No offense to you all, but I thought there would have been a bit more levity with it all. Yet you're all just a bunch of miserable bastards, aren't you? Nevertheless, I hope your nerves are at ease, Van Helsing.
Oh, yes, I would say so. Thank you.
Much ado. Now, I've finished this bitch. Where's your friend? Just saw the fuck around here.
Professor Hyde slinked away to try and finally get a smoke of his cigar when Professor Van Helsing joins him in the corner.
Professor, you ain't got a match in you in all this time, have you? No, I haven't. Bloody fuck. Did you mean it? I really need a fucking match. No, your medicine. Is it what I think it is? Well, I'm not a smart man. It took me a few years to learn Jekyll's formulas and whatnot. Took even longer to know what it meant, but that's really it. A genuine antidote. To you? An antidote to you? It was an odd assortment of chemicals and whatnot, but this should counteract whatever Jekyll did to himself. Put him back as if nothing had ever happened. And what of you? If you take that antidote, what happens to you?
Professor Hyde looked to his feet for a moment, then gave a light chuckle of mortal understanding.
I'm not really sure. I don't think things like me go to heaven or to hell. I think I would just cease to be, as gone as quickly as I came. A thought, and nothing more. Suicide, then? Can you really call it suicide if I never really lived? True, I speak differently, walk differently, maybe even look a bit off. But I was never alive. I am a rotten thought taken to an extreme position. My life was never my own. Always borrowed. Everything that I am, everything in my life, I contribute to Jekyll. Whether that is a compliment or an insult, I am not sure of yet. But this life is his, and he needs someone to take it back for him. What does he think about all of this? Jekyll is too far gone to listen to reason. If left to him, he would rot in our subconscious till we both die. I needed to do this alone, away from him. That is the only way it would work. But don't you both... Oh, Professor, I can still keep my own secrets from time to time. Took everything I had, but he doesn't know a thing. I would hate to think what he would do if he ever found out, though. Then this is it. You truly mean to make things right. Like I said, my life is not mine own. Then I've mistaken you, Hyde. You are not the man that I know at all. It brings me pleasure to hear you say that.
Professor Hyde extended his hand. Professor Van Helsing looked at it for a moment, not sure whether to take it or not. Then, with a sense of humbleness, he did.
It was nice knowing you, Professor Hyde.
And you, Professor Van Helsing.
Professor Hyde and Professor Van Helsing moved to the back of the tram, conversing and resting for the long, cold night to come. Pain took hold of Dr. Frankenstein's leg. He looked up from rubbing his leg to Dorian Gray approaching him with an empty bottle, and Eric.
Good evening, Doctor. How's the leg?
It aches,
From the cold?
in a way. What can I do for you?
Well, the way I see it, you deem yourself the patron saint among this craft.
Oh, you came here to mock me, is that it?
I was hoping you could pull through a humble example of your pleasantness and watch over Eric for a moment.
You aren't leaving me here with this
It'll
bloke.
only be a moment. I've reached the bottom of my bottle, but I do remember a box of Romanian Reds in the back. Just you sit here and...
I won't have it. How dare you treat me this way?
Here, Eric, let's just calm down.
Bitch! Pandora! You deem yourself a saint for your actions, then abandon me?
Eric's mind became more unhinged by the moment, and he became more aggravated at his partner as she leaned down to calm him.
Is he alright?
It'll be fine. He's just having a fit is all.
You arrogant little witch with your... What was I saying?
I was just telling you that I'm going to get us some more drinks. I'm leaving you here with Victor.
Who are you?
Dorian Gray, Eric. My name is Dorian Gray. It's a pleasure to have met you.
Stop acting so magnanimous all the goddamn time, Dorian. I know who you are, just
Lost track of what you were saying. I know, it's okay. Why don't you try to remember where you left off and we'll discuss it when I get back.
These fits, they happen often.
A few months back, only one here or there. Nothing major, just losing a word or a thought. But it's gotten quite a bit worse since then.
Are you sure it was the best thing for him?
If not this, then what? Stick him back into a room, hidden from the world again?
Where's my composition book?
I'll see if I can find it.
Well, get to it, Minnie.
Absolutely. I'll just be a moment, Doctor. I'll bring you back a bottle.
Oh, there's no need to.
I'm doing it anyways.
Oh, right.
Dorian Gray sauntered into the other tram to look for her wine. Dr. Frankenstein carefully looked to the man in the wheelchair.
Bless the cold. Why is it so cold?
Well, you're on a train, remember?
No, I've never been on a bloody train. Who do you think you're fooling?
Eric, do you know where you are?
I'm here with you. It's snowing and I'm here with you.
Very good. See, everything is all right.
It's snowing, isn't it? But how could you know? Men like us don't feel the snow.
Well, I suppose it should be right now.
The pillars and gargoyles would shift and change in the snow. Normal men couldn't see it, but I could. That opera house was alive every single day until it burned.
What opera house?
Her halls and stadium would be filled with the voices of gods and goddesses. Streaky lights pouring in through thin slats as I listened to those voices. Transcendent. And among the unfeeling snow, the building was alive. Alive with her voice. The voice of an angel.
Who are you talking about? Whose voice?
Yours. Don't you remember, Christine? Your voices echoed against itself and could speak to every spirit that wandered through our halls. A true angel. A true beauty.
Perhaps you should rest.
With skin as pale as bone and lips as scarlet as hellfire, you were the closest thing to Aphrodite's immaculate perfection one could hope to achieve. I saw her and became weak. I, in my strong and blasphemous youth, became weak at the sight of her defiance, her beauty, her...
Eric, it's me. Victor.
But we monsters don't get to taste the beauty, do we? That should be reserved for better men, not us. We sit in the cold and snow, never feeling what we should be yearning, but we can listen, and we can appreciate. Was that how it was for you, Victor, to see your wife? What misery you must have, to have lost her so young.
I miss her. They do.
Tremendous mountains of guilt in those words, Victor. That is what fills your putrid soul. Guilt. Nothing else I can see. There's no beauty or loss, only guilt.
What do you mean?
You are like me, aren't you? We do not sit with them, those men. We are forced to be another species, another creature altogether. We have scars and limps and stories of lost loves, but you, Victor, understand why you cannot belong.
What would you?
They see a sin and claim it yours, but your roots run deeper. Deeper than the ground, deeper than a limb or a home, deep enough to escape the cold.
Who do you think that you are
Where
trying?
am I?
What?
Am I on a bloody tram?
Yes, Eric, you are.
Who are you?
Someone like you, Eric.
Dr. Frankenstein sat with his newly found companion. As the gentlemen in the tram went about their business, Mrs. Grey was mindlessly looking for her crimson acquaintance in the other car.
What do you do with a drunken stagehand? What do you do with a drunken stagehand? What do you do with a drunken stagehand? You lie in the first act.
Dorian Gray opened a crate and rummaged about, tossing its contents on the ground, shattering a Greek vase in the process.
Hang 'em from the rafters till you're even. Hang 'em from the rafters till you're even. Hang 'em from the rafters till you're even. Or lie in the first act.
She pulled out a dusty wine bottle and blew off a plume of powder from the label.
Ah, here we go, my darling. Casa Zeului Sangelui, 1802. Wonderful year, if I remember.
She began to leave, humming to herself until her foot hit something. She stopped and picked it up, revealing it to be a dead rat.
Bloody rats probably got into one of the crates, dear boys.
Dorian Gray tossed the rat corpse to the side, then looked at her hand, seeing that it was now coated in blood.
What the hell happened back here?
She looked around and saw more rats, all dead and all bloody. As she examined the scene, a hooded, mysterious old man emerged from the shadows. His ragged black cloak and a single pale hand with long pointed fingernails protruded from the sheet. The hand beckoned to Mrs. Grey as he spoke.
Christ, Eric, what are you doing back here? You're going to catch pneumonia unless you stay up front. Here, let me take... You're not Eric.
Young and beautiful as always.
Have you been back here the entire time? Christ, you must be half frozen by this point.
I have no need for warmth when the rats hold my company.
Okay, let's get you back up front. We have several doctors who can look at you.
Beauties like us have no need for those mortal men called doctors. Do we, Dorian?
How do you know my name?
Do you hear that?
No, what is it?
Rain.
Who are you?
I am someone like you, Dorian.
Someone like me. And what is someone like me?
Someone who transcends the need to keep track of how old they are. 304 this October. That is what you told them, isn't it?
This is a joke, isn't it? Is that you, Hyde? Are you under there?
How easily that lie rolls off your tongue.
How are you doing this? What is going on here?
304 years of age. You say 304 because you yourself cannot remember when the curse began. You've lost track all this while.
I swear to God, tell me how you're doing this all.
591 this past March. You've surpassed half a millennia of regret and solitude.
You can't know that. No one can know that.
591 years of loneliness. 591 years of hoping there will be someone else in your travels. Someone like you. Desperately hoping for solace from that eternal silence. But it's not silent anymore. Is it?
I can hear it. I can hear the rain.
You've gained a taste for it, wanting what you can never have.
I'm so tired. I just want to break free of whatever this sickness is.
You may weep, child, for I know your pain. Come, my child, come to me.
I just want it to stop, please. Dear God, let it stop. Let it all be quiet and loud and everything at once.
Come, and I shall grant you the one thing you desire the most, Dorian.
Dorian began to stride towards the mysterious man, entranced by his voice and his dark, mysterious demeanour, who was slowly making his way towards her as well.
No one can help me. I've tried it all. I'm stuck here forever.
But you have just met me. I can liberate you, child.
The two met. Mrs. Grey gazed up at the man who took her chin and lifted her face to meet his. As his breathless breath matched hers, she couldn't help but feel a quasi-familiar embrace. Something between the trust of a lover and the chill before a violent storm.
Who are you?
Do you wish for freedom?
Oh God, yes.
Then it shall be done.
How?
As the mysterious man spoke, his hunched, crippled figure began to grow larger and larger until he was towering over Dorian Gray, his voice deepening and becoming more sure until it was the deep growl of an eldritch animal.
For I am your savior, your mentor, your friend, your love, your passion, your commander, your controller, your ruler, your god. For I am Dracula!
With a flash of white fang and a velvet-eyed scream, it was over before it began. Dorian Gray, the once beautiful immortal, fell limp in his arms, thin breaths escaping between the gurgled silence of her blood. As her purple eyes faded, Dracula's eyes deepened somehow, such as a spider's would when met with a dying fly.
You have fear in your eyes, Dorian. Perhaps the first sense of fear in your life. You're wondering why you aren't healing. Well, that was your first mistake. You only heal against wounds from mortal things, and I am so much more!
All these years later, I wish it were possible to say that Dorian had not suffered for long. But, hidden in that labyrinth of boxes and darkness, that poor immortal faced a fate worse than death, worse than life, in fact. Dorian Gray faced an eternity's worth of rain, held back all those years by an insignificantly selfish curse, and embraced all the more by those dying, wine-filled eyes. But, while that beautiful wonder was freed of her life, her counterparts were all but unaware of what festering horrors had begun to spread. The seeds of their demise were planted, and all that remained was to wait. Wait, and prepare for a Gothic nightmare on a Russian tram.